Hey everybody, so today's video is going to be on redoing the U-joints in the front axles for the Dana 60 on my truck, and it's pretty much universal across the spectrum of Dana 60 front diffs, so hope you enjoy. Let's get to it. If you ever asked yourself, hey, why is he replacing those U-joints? Wasn't the truck driving just fine? This is missing a cup. You know, that piece of it. That's missing. There's pieces missing down here. All the needle bearings are missing. Yeah, no. It's time for this to be retired. So this is getting replaced. Obviously, we're reusing these pieces. So I'm going to probably finish this one and record the other one. I don't know how much I'm going to have to beat on this, but we'll see. Alright, now, removing your old U-joints. Now, I'm in Arizona, so, you know, these U-joints are really old. I can't estimate as to how old. I didn't put them in, but, you know, they've lived their life. They've been leaking grease for a while, and this is the good side compared to the other one, so this one's definitely been replaced. It's not the same style. But anyway, we don't have much rust and corrosion over here, but either way, your best friend for getting these out are going to be a BFH. A big friendly hammer. So, the way these are in here, the snap rings on each one have kind of set down into a little groove. And what you need to do is press each cap in just a little bit to get that snap ring out. So, give her a good couple of whacks. You should be able to see when it starts to move. And it shouldn't have to move far. And just get a screwdriver or a other small prying implement and pry it out a little bit to where you can get up on the other side of it and pop it out. Now you want to watch your eyes and lights and everything else, because sometimes these little guys will go flying with a little bit of tension. Like that. Some guys do just one side first and then they take everything apart and then they do the other side. I mean, while I'm sitting here, I might as well just do all four of them. Make sure when you're hitting it, you try to hit it as flat as possible on those caps. If you're having a hard time lining up your hammer with your shot, you could always use a socket that's smaller than where it needs to go in, as long as it sits flat on that ring cap. There we go. Should only have to pop it a couple of times if it's not all gunked up and rusty. These aren't really rusty, but they are really gunked up with clay and mud and grease and a whole conglomerate of who knows what. Ugh. And sometimes the snap rings will fight. Oh, you little... Ugh. It's trying to move, and then it's like, nope. And what these little guys look like, this is one of the other ones from the other axle. A little C-clip, and it clips in this way. Whichever direction was the axle is on, that's the direction they're going to clip in. So, logic would dictate that it wants to come out the opposite direction. So I got it popped out, and just send it to the neighbor's house. Whew, that one does not want to move. Now, for the ones that are rustier, you can try using penetrating oil or even heat. I am out of penetrating oil, so I don't even have WD-40. Suppose I could try a little heat. Beat it on the table. That one shot me. Okay. One lock ring left. Oh god, that does not want to move. Alright. All 8 snap rings are out. And I say 8 because there's 4 on here, 4 on the other axle shaft. So, now we're going to go over to the vise, or press these bad boys out. Because I am a fan of work smarter, not harder. And pop the cap off and have all your really rusty, gross needle bearings fall out. And they are really rusty. Even though that thing has a grease circuit in it, there's not a touch of grease in there. You can tell it was well loved and well maintained. This is the one that's got the broken cap or cup on it, so I'm gonna try to push it through because that broken cup is not gonna want to come out in the right direction. So let's see what happens. So basically what you want to do, like in the situation where the cap goes through and it doesn't want to quite come through straight on the other side, you can just seat it just a hair. And then what you want to do is whatever cap you're trying to get to come back out this way, set it in the vise so it's just sitting there. It doesn't need to be clamped down. I clamped it just a tiny bit, but it doesn't really need to. And then what you want to do, just for an example, I was actually tapping on this one, but tap this side and that cap will bounce the way you're trying to go. So I put this in here, tapped it a few times here, the cap that was crooked leveled out, and then what I can do now that the rust and everything is broken loose is use my little socket, pop the other cap out. That one's definitely seated back in there. These ones do not want to move. Let's just see if we can give that a little convincing. Hate doing that, but sometimes when your stuff is so rusty, I mean, what choice do you have? Yo! Sometimes that happens when they pop loose. There it is. There's my axle shaft. Okay. This little guy is not happy. Okay. God. Well, we had a catastrophic failure, but thank goodness it was a catastrophic failure of the cap. Whew. Had me panicking for a second. Really? Busted the top of the cap right off. Now we're going to clean them up a little bit. All that's in that surface where the U-joints need to slide in. I've got some wire brushes, but they can actually be pretty aggressive, so I'm going to use some 600 grit sandpaper. I know you see me use sandpaper on this truck a lot, but a lot of this truck is messed up and it's nowhere close to new. The next time these U-joints have to be redone, I think I'll just get new shafts. They're not exactly new either, and they are a wear part over time, especially parts in four-wheel drive. So you're never going to get it perfect. If you do get it all shiny and looking beautiful, it means you've probably removed too much material, and you're going to have a problem with your U-joints not wanting to stay in there. So what we want to make sure we do is A, get rid of any nasty old built-up grease and rust, and then knock down any burrs or anything that might still be in there. Burrs of metal, that is. And since these are old and used and severely abused, there are some decent burrs and deformities. This stub shaft makes me worried. I don't like how that feels. But I guess as long as she slides back together. This is the one that had the broken cup in it, and it feels like almost half of this surface on the inside there is kind of wallered out just a little bit. I don't know why I did a thumbs up. It's not a good thing. Anyway, I think that's good enough for putting her back together. We're not painting these or anything. Like I said, they're not new. They're not in great shape. It's kind of just one of those things that's gonna work. We're gonna put her back together, and like my friend Andy says, we're gonna let her wobble. So a lot of you might be panicking right now because I've been clamping down on this. Well, this truck, unlike a lot of other ones, the wheel seals or the axle seals are not out here. They're actually way down here. So there is no seal between here and the rest of it. So fear not. Alright, I'm going to sand this, get it cleaned up, and then we'll start talking about putting the new ones in. Alright, now we're going to be working on reassembly. A couple of quick notes. If you have U-joints that have a grease zerk, obviously it's going to be easiest to go ahead and get that in and crank it down now before you put it in. Another note is whatever side this is on, you'll notice it's on one side or the other. You want the grease zerk to be facing away from your stub shaft. That's going to make your life a whole lot easier when it comes time to grease things up. Plus, usually, not always, but I shouldn't say usually, sometimes you'll have a little less clearance on the stub shaft here than you would on the axle side, and that could actually cause an issue, you know, smacking that thing while you're turning and snapping it off. So, on every one of these, hopefully I'm not too close, you see how it's got this flat area and then a slightly curved area, and then it's got this edge right here. Now when these are fully seated, like when you go to take them off, that corner is going to be flush with right here, you know, on the surface on each side. When we go to install these, we're actually going to have to go just a little bit further in, just like when we went to take them out, to be able to put those clips in. You want to make sure you don't go real far in, because then you're going to cause problems with it binding to start with. But when you set it in just a little bit and put those clips in there, it's perfectly fine. As you drive down the road, they're going to seat themselves back to where they need to be. So as long as it still moves in there, you're good to go. So the first thing I'm going to do is take the cap off. Now you want to make sure all those needle bearings stay stuck to the outside edge, or at least they're back in that position when you go to put your U-joint in, because if you don't, bad things are going to happen. We'll just leave it at that. I'm going to set this over here for a moment. And the first thing we're going to do is just go ahead and seat one of these in there ways. We don't want to get it all the way in, we just want to get it in there and get it started. And I left my hammer over there again. Alright, now it's not wiggling. Let me just set this down and I will go get my hammer. Ugh. Now, you could use the press for this, but I actually recommend against it, because you really don't want to take a chance on squishing these too far, because you really can't get it back out without squishing the other side in. So it's easiest just to work it in slowly, get those snap rings in there. So this part is always better by hand. I'm going to grab a socket real quick. Okay, 3/4. Yeah, could go a little bit bigger, but it should be alright. So, we are going to take this guy, take the cap off the opposite side. Oh, okay. I just had to pop it over that little rubber edge there. Rubber edge seal. Alright. So when I set that back in there, I made sure the bearings were all around the outside edge and it slid right in there like that. If it binds up and it doesn't just slide right in, pull it back out and recheck it, because you got a problem. So same situation. There's grease in there, but all the bearings are where they're supposed to be, so that's what we want. So then we're going to set this guy in. Just get it started. And you'll know you have the bearings all lined up if it'll move up and down evenly. So there it goes. Alright, now we're just going to be tapping it in. Okay. Should be just about far enough. I'll double check it, but you're going to want that edge to be just inside the outside lip here. I know I said I was going to use a socket, but these are nice and flat, so I don't think I need to. Bearings should always come with their own snap rings. If they don't, send them back. Looks like it's just a hair off. There we go. And that snap ring is going to go in facing towards the axle shaft like I was talking about before. A lot of times they don't like to go in, so it's so bouncy. Uh-huh. That happened. Oh, bugger. There we go. Sometimes it's a little too tight for your fingers, but push on it with something a little harder. Make sure it's in there all the way. And you're good. Looks like the other side bounced out a little bit. We'll give that another tappity tap. Of course, now it doesn't want to move. Interesting. It really doesn't want to move. Well, I hate to say it, but I might actually have to use the press on that. Just a tiny bit. But until then, let's go ahead and get the axle put on. So, same situation. I'm going to put it on the axle the same way. Pull the cup off. Maybe. There we go. All the bearings are good. Just give it a little tap. Pull the other cup off. Come on. Right now, this is causing me a little distress. Not wanting to move. Yep, it looks like it's just a hair out of alignment. So, give her a little wiggle. Ugh. There we go. Just a little tap. As long as she slides up and down, we're good. Alright, that one's definitely recessed. Ooh! What's a little skin between friends? Ah, jeez. So anyway, that's in. Check the other side. Yep, she's not in position. I know my work table's a wreck. I apologize. Same situation. I think it's the vacuum, or not vacuum, but the grease in there is really thick, and it actually will pressurize, or like when I try to take the caps off, it creates a vacuum pressure. And I think it's the air pressure actually keeping those from compressing all the way, so I will end up using the press just a tiny bit. So let's go over there and do that now. Alright, let's get this bad boy in there. That's interesting. Really? Hold that thought. I think it might be just a little bit bent. Just a little. Jeez. Well, that don't make any sense because this one's not. Definitely not bent. Ow. Metal slivers are fun. There we go. That's so close. There we go. Get my little clip out. Ah, there we go. Okay, one left. That's crazy. Alright. Looks like we're good. That's gonna be a pain in the butt. Ah, there we go. Alright. One new U-joint that can articulate. Good stuff. I'll grease that up before I put it in. I won't bore you with the other side. I will just say, if you're not very confident with this, either go in expecting a certain degree of error, and therefore you may have to replace parts, or have somebody else do it that's a professional. Alright everybody, well, that's all I have for replacing the axle U-joints on a Dana 60 front drive shaft. Well, front axles, to be technical. As always, if you have any questions or comments, please hit me up down below in the comments section. Try to respond as soon as I see them, generally within about 24 hours. Please like, share, and subscribe. Every little bit helps, guys. Thank you so much for sticking around. And as always, I love you. We'll see you next time. Jesus. Right off.